This is our 6th video on Reconstruction, and it's called Reconstruction Acts and Amendments. So, in order to keep the states' rights folks at bay, the federal government passes a flurry of incredible legislation, including the 13th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the 14th Amendment, the Reconstruction Acts of 1867-68, and the 15th Amendment. So let's just think through the logic of justice here. You've got the founding fathers make their claims about inalienable rights, and they come up with the Constitution. But the Constitution's not enough, so you need specific legislation because you can't trust people just to live by the Constitution. So you need specific legislation. So you have that. But then you also ultimately, as we're going to see, you need local enforcement of the law. And that's why the troops were sent down there in order to make people follow the laws that were put there to follow the Constitution. At every step of the way, people need to take action in founding things, in legislating, and then in putting that legislation into action. Note to self, or to put it in terms of what we're trying to teach you about character and leadership, everything needs to work, the head, heart, hands in coordination. So you need to figure out what the just laws are. You need to train people in responsive habits of feeling so that they want to follow the law in general. And then you need to have skilled application of like how to make this work. And these three things were not in concert with the federal government and local governments in the South after the Civil War, unfortunately. So what's the argumentative justification for all of this legislation that we're about to talk about? It all goes back to the founding. It all goes back to that initial case for freedom. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what it is. Those are the rights. The states can't take away those rights. And if local governments think they don't have to follow through with this, then we need to specify the legislation, and we need troops down there, boots on the ground, to make sure this happens. So the 13th Amendment, 1865, outlaws slavery in all the states and territories. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was designed to head off the black codes at the pass. And it was really vague, easy to get around, so more legislation was necessary. But just to show you how out of step Andrew Johnson, the President of the United States, was with Lincoln, he actually vetoed that bill, and it was passed over his veto. The Reconstruction Acts were designed to enforce the Civil Rights Act, pretty much. And so they sent the troops down there and divided the whole South up into these military districts to make sure that the black codes were minimized and that the freedmen were actually free. Again, Johnson vetoed this legislation, and it was passed over his veto. The 14th Amendment is the one that just says explicitly, look, this states' rights stuff can't trump the federal guarantees of individual rights. So it's 1868. It just flat out says the states' right thing is done on this. And the 15th Amendment makes voting one of the inalienable rights and sets that clear. And again, states can't undo that. It's a federal issue. Okay, takeaways for this video. You should be familiar with the 13th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the 14th Amendment, the Reconstruction Acts of 1867 and 68, and the 15th Amendment. And you should be able to explain how, in order to make real social progress, change must involve head, heart, and hands.